You're listening to the Cash Podcast, creating affluence, success, and happiness with your financial surgeon, Adam Koos, President and Portfolio Manager at Libertas Wealth Management Group at libertaswealth.com.
Hey everybody, Adam Koos with Libertas Wealth Management Group. Many companies are finding it really hard to find good salespeople these days. So today I wanted to bring on Ken Lazar, owner of Ability Professional Network, a recruiting company that specializes in hiring sales professionals for companies who want to win. Ken has spent 20 years in talent acquisition and professional staffing, previously holding the positions of Managing Director for Express Division of Manpower Group and District Manager for Kelly Services. Over the course of his career, Ken has won many top sales awards, including District of the Year, the Consumer's Choice Award for Best Staffing Agency in Central Ohio, and the Leadership Award for Influential Selling. He also led his team to winning his company's highest award, the Manpower Group Power Award for Growth, Profitability, and Community Service. And he did this not once, but twice. Ken is a graduate in Industrial Engineering from Kettering University with a Master's of Science in Industrial Administration from the Cranbrook Business School at Purdue. He and his wife Nancy live just outside Columbus in Plain City, Ohio, and Ken's also an avid golfer. He makes beautiful custom pens. I own some of them. And I'm sorry to all you dog owners out there, but he says that he just happens to own the best dog on the planet, which I guess can't say a whole lot for your dogs, I suppose. But I had a great talk with Ken. I learned a lot about the sales profession, hiring top-notch salespeople, and even snagged a couple interview questions that I'm going to be using when we make our next hire. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get going with the interview. All right, everybody. Today I've got Ken Lazar joining us, and we're going to be talking about how to hire the best sales professionals for your company, or if you're somebody looking to change careers in the sales profession, how do you get a job in that profession and do it well? Not just the best job, but with the best company. So Ken, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Adam. I appreciate the invitation.
For sure. No, thank you for coming on. I saw you speak a few weeks ago, and it was a really intriguing presentation. I love that you started the whole thing. Actually, you prefaced the whole thing with, I'm going to give away all my secrets and tell them exactly how I do what I do, which is awesome. I always say that's what we try to do here, is we try to educate and tell everybody what it is, how it is, describe all the details, and then if they want to do it themselves, they can do it themselves. But if not, that's what we're here for, is to help out. But how'd you get into the business of recruiting, specifically sales?
Well, so I'm an engineer by education, and I started out in engineering, and then got my business degree, and decided that engineering probably wasn't my calling, so I went into sales, and was a sales executive for several companies. And then there was a point in time where I was furloughed from my company because of economic reasons, so I went out and did a job search. And during the job search, I found a great company in Dayton, Ohio, that was actually a temporary staffing firm for engineers and designers. So their primary customer was General Motors in Delphi, and I'm a General Motors Institute grad, so it was hand in glove that I joined the company. And then we were placing designers and engineers at automotive companies. I was there for about 5 or 6 years. And that's what got me into staffing, which I absolutely love. So I've been putting people to work for the past 30 years, Adam, and I love it. It's just a great profession, and it's very fulfilling.
I was just going to ask, what is the most fulfilling part about it?
Well, the thing is that you're always looking to help your candidates forward their career. And you want to make sure that when you're talking with candidates, that it's a good fit for them. We are paid by our clients, of course. We are never paid by our candidates. So we are always working for our clients, but we want to make sure that there is a perfect match for that. And then I get emails back or cards back that says, I can't thank you enough for getting me into this company, because they're just awesome. It was a great fit, and really appreciate your help. I don't get a lot of donuts, Adam. Every so once in a while, I'd like to get some donuts from somebody, but I always get a lot of nice kudos for helping them find new employment.
Yeah, you'd have to go on more walks, like you were telling me before we started today. Get more
Yeah,
donuts.
well, yeah, I say that tongue in cheek. I love donuts, but I don't want to eat too many of them.
So, kind of off the cuff here, I have a client who years ago, he loved his job. He loved his job. He still loves his job now. But in the midst of just a good economy, things were going fine. All of a sudden, he comes in the office one day and he says, hey, I changed jobs. Was a pilot for a major publicly traded firm. Flew around the executives, the CEO, and he changed jobs and he got a job at a different company in another state. And I asked him, I said, why are you changing jobs? I thought you loved your job. And he says, I did love my job, but it's my belief that in business, that if you want to get ahead in life, you have to always treat your job like a motorcycle. And that is to be safe. You have to stay ahead of traffic, not wait for people to pass you up. So from the candidate perspective, would you agree with that statement that it makes sense to kind of always have your eyes out and stay ahead of traffic?
Well, that's there's another saying, Adam, is that your company owns your job, but you own your career. So it is absolutely true that jobs come and go. To a lot of people have no control over that. There's new management, there's mergers, there's acquisitions, all kinds of things happen that for a sales professional, they lose their job and still be doing a great job. It's just a matter of business. So you constantly have to understand what your next step in your career would be. It could be with the company that you're at. It could be with another company, but typically you own your career. So you have to be in charge of that all the time.
Would you say that's the same for the people who are in their, say, early 50s, mid 50s, who are kind of at the point in their lives where they're not really interested in pursuing higher levels of their career? Honestly, they'd rather hit the coast button. Would you say that part of being an employee is even if you don't feel like growing your career, that maybe it's probably smart in order to keep from layoffs happening and things like that, and finding yourself out of control? I'm not sorry, I'm not asking that, right? I'm just thinking about a few people that in my career, there's been several people that I've seen, clients of ours, who all of a sudden it's like they lose their job and they're getting paid really well. And then when that job gets furloughed or when that position gets cut, now they're just struggling to find a new position, that can pay even remotely what they were making before because of their age. I hate to say it, but what are your thoughts there?
Well, your 40s and your 50s are your peak earning careers. So you've earned the right to be making a good wage if you've been doing a good job. And a lot of people will not a lot, but you could lose your job in your 50s. There's no question about that. I've seen a lot of people that has happened to, but I will tell you the job search is 100% curable. I've never helped any. I've helped a lot of people. They always find another position, and typically, it's a journey. They'll probably find a position that may be even better than the one they had. But a lot of times, at that point in time, and you're right, Adam, they might have to take a step back in compensation, but they'll make up for it. I mean, if you're good, you'll make up for it in another couple of years. So stay the course. I mean, it happens to everybody, and you'll find another job.
It makes me wonder though, just if it's almost like diet, exercise, and taking supplements will keep you from getting disease, diabetes. It'll keep you healthy, keep your joints lubricated so you don't get hurt, and doing all that's preventative medicine. And then you've got your taking drugs because you have diabetes or because you've let things go too far and now you're on blood pressure medication. It almost seems to me that doing the active stay ahead of traffic type of mentality in your career, even if you don't want to because you'd rather coast, is almost like the equivalent of preventative medicine, as opposed to coasting and then finding yourself having to take medication because you didn't stay ahead of traffic. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. I think that everyone. So we play salespeople, Adam. So I think that every professional salesperson really ought to have some type of relationship with a professional recruiter. So I will tell you that 99% of the people that we place for our clients are currently working. So
Oh, wow.
absolutely. So we get an assignment from our client that says, I really need this. This is my ideal candidate. This is what I want. So we go out and find candidates that meet their criteria, and the majority of them are working. So we're talking with people that are in their career. They're probably doing very well because my client doesn't want anybody who's not doing well. So what we do is we say, hey, this is an opportunity to forward your career. It's an opportunity to make more income, an opportunity to work with a great company. And that's how a lot of people further their careers, through a call from a recruiter. So my advice to your clients, Adam, is if they don't already have one, is to get a relationship with a good recruiter in their field, because you'll never know when you get that call. And that's a proactive way. It's not a job search. It is a way of staying in front of a good recruiter who can place you in your next move in your company. And it's preventative medicine, just like anything else, Adam. Like, taking
It sounds like.
blood pressure medicine, blood pressure pills, or all those types of things that keep you healthy. A recruiter can keep your career healthy.
Yeah, I didn't realize such a high percentage were already working.
Well, you got the unemployment rate is below 4% now,
Sure.
and salespeople is probably around 2. So generally speaking, there's salespeople out there that will be unemployed, and they'll be in transition. It could be from a merger, acquisition, new management, what have you, and occasionally we'll catch a person that's in between, and that's great. We're glad to do that, and we're working with several candidates right now that are in transition that called us. He said, we know that you hire salespeople, so they called us, and we're trying to work with them to find their next career.
It's almost like you're the person on their team that's looking out for them for their next step in their career, while they just go about their business with their work, their family, and they don't have to worry about it.
It's a matter of timing too, Adam. I mean, we may get a call from a great candidate that is in transition, but we just don't have an assignment right now
Right.
that matches their background. And we really, a lot of people think that recruiters take candidates and find jobs for them. That's really only a very small percentage of the candidates that we see. We're always working for our client to place candidates and on the assignments that they pay us for. So we've done some career coaching work, and we're very pleased to have helped a lot of people that way. But the majority of the work that we do is working for our clients.
It sounds, what you're telling me, tell me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like it's about timing. So really, again, it's about having that relationship so that when the right time does arrive, that you've got somebody on your team that can help you find that position, because it's not always going to be available. In fact, it's probably not going to, the perfect job is probably going to rarely be available. Is that wrong?
Is the perfect job? I don't know, Adam. I mean,
I'm thinking of like your top tier sales professionals who, are doing really, really well, and they're looking for that next, whatever that perfect job is. And obviously the company, your client, they've got their criteria as well. Maybe I'm not saying it right. I guess, as opposed to saying, if I'm a sales professional, as opposed to saying, all right, it's July, and I've decided now that I'm ready to change jobs. So I'm going to call Ken, and he's going to find me a job next month. What I'm saying is, it doesn't really work like that. It's more like, I'm a sales professional. I'm not looking for a job per se, but I'm open to it. And if Ken finds something that's great, I'm willing to, hear him out and talk to the company, and perhaps maybe make a change if it's a step up of my career. As opposed to looking at it as a transaction, looking at it as more of an ongoing process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we call it, they're putting themselves on our radar.
Okay.
They're top of mind to make sure, and that's good. We always like that. The other thing too is that when we're talking with candidates, like the candidate that you mentioned, Adam, and we don't have something, if they say, well, what are you working on? Maybe I know somebody that is a fit for that job. So we'll talk about the assignments that we have. And we've gotten some good candidates through referrals from people that have just called us that says, I'm looking for a job, but I may be able to help you find good candidates. That's a great relationship. We'll remember those people. I guarantee you,
For sure.
we'll remember those people, Adam.
So how did you start your company, Ability Professional Network? How'd that get started?
Well, that's a great. For those of us those people who are listening, you remember what happened back in 2006, 7, 8, the Great Recession.
I can't forget.
It was terrible. I mean, I was working for a great company, Kelly Services. I was in the temporary staffing industry, and I went to my pastor of Scioto Ridge United Methodist Church, and I says, "Well, have you got any people that are out of work?" And Pastor Giffen says, "Yeah, we do." I said, "Well, do you mind if I start a job networking group?" And he says, "No." So he gave us a Sunday school room, and we met once a week. And there was 8 people there that were in transition. And I brought in speakers to talk about, what the job transition is, resume writing, LinkedIn profiling, all those types of things. And we just started, word got around because everybody was out of work. And all of a sudden, instead of 8 people in the room, there were 80 people in the room. And then there were 120 people in the room. And then we were working in 6 different churches in the evenings in Columbus, just helping people with the job search and getting them back to work. So over a period of probably about 7 years, 8 years, we probably helped over 4,000 or 5,000 people in Columbus find new employment by just through networking and getting good information from our group. So that's kind of what started in the community, in the Columbus community. That's where the roots of Ability Professional Network. And then I was working for a Manpower Professional, which is now Experis.
Oh yeah.
And there's things that happen in your life, Adam, that are kind of catalysts for things that future things. And it was not my ideal position. And my wife one day just came in and said, "Ken, why don't you start your own company?" And I says, "Seriously?" I says, "Yeah." She says, "Let's give it a shot." So we gave it a shot, and this was 9 years ago. And what was interesting about it is all those people that came to Scioto Ridge. One lady, "Hey, you need a website. Can I do a website for you?" And I says, "Well, yeah." I said, "No charge. You help me during my job search. I'll do a website, do a logo, do your business cards, all that kind of stuff." And I said, "Well, that's fantastic." And then we had speakers that, "How can I help you? How can I help you?" So it wasn't an overnight success. We're a 9-year overnight success. But that's how it all started. It's just something happens in your life that gives you an opportunity to do something that you've always loved to do. And now I'm doing absolutely what I love to do. And I'm playing the back nine of my career, but I will tell you that I have no qualms about doing this until I can't do it anymore.
Sure. As long as you're having fun, it's not work, right?
That's a good point. Adam, I love that saying. Is that if I've met people that worked their entire lives at jobs that they hated just so they could retire, and I find that so depressing.
It's tough. Yeah.
It is. But now I have a job that I love so much I don't want to retire. So it's a great feeling.
I'm with you. I always say I haven't worked in 21 years. It's been great.
Yeah.
Obviously, you focus on sales professionals. That's your niche. What would you say for the people that want to know how much time it takes, to hire a sales professional, for the companies out there, business owners? How long does it take to hire a sales professional?
I get that question a lot, especially when I'm talking with potential new clients. There's actually some statistics on that. It's the DHI group who owns Dice and a couple of other job boards. It's right now it's hovering around between 45 and 50 days. The significant part of that is that it's at the highest level it's been since they've been measuring it. And there's a variety of reasons for that. One of it is absolutely a candidate's market right now. And we work very hard to find the candidates that we place. So companies are having to talk with and touch a lot more candidates than they normally would have to fill their positions. So it's taking much longer to fill open positions than it ever has been.
I don't want to say it's shocking, but I guess on it, like you said earlier, employment is so low. Unemployment, I'm sorry, is so low. I guess maybe that makes sense.
Yeah.
But speaking of job boards, you mentioned job boards a second ago. What are your feeling about posting open positions on job boards these days?
So a couple things. Job boards have their place, but I don't recommend companies or candidates spending a lot of time on job boards that are in the sales profession. For some reason, and we've done it, we don't post jobs anymore. We rarely place any jobs. The jobs that we would place on job boards would be more entry-level positions than anything else. I think that the job boards are good for positions outside of sales that are entry-level or maybe hourly or positions at that level. But generally speaking, the only people that are going on job boards are the ones that are in active job searches. And at a 4% unemployment rate, that's probably only about 14% of all the people on the planet. So you're narrowing your job search or your job recruiting to a very limited number of people.
Wow. Okay.
So, we have had job boards post our jobs for free just to get us to do subscriptions, but it's never been very fruitful, Adam.
Huh.
Not to say that, the blind squirrel scenario, not to say that you should not do it, but it's not gonna be the primary focus of your recruiting or your job search.
And what are you doing within your firm to complete a successful search, from start to finish? What are the steps you're taking?
Well, the most important step that we take is identifying a successful hire or an ideal candidate. So we will not take an assignment unless there are three components that align. And if you could take a look at three circles, and like the Olympic rings with three circles. So one of the circles would be what we call time to hire. And that is the urgency of the company to hire a candidate. Because if there's really no urgency and it's a long hiring cycle, you're going to lose good candidates. The second is qualifications. We got to make sure that the qualifications are exactly what we understand what they are and that they are necessary and that there are no change in the qualifications somewhere during the job search. So we've done job searches that we're going through and we're submitting candidates, and they say, oh well, we forgot that this candidate needs to have, I don't know, some type of technical skill that we didn't know at the beginning. So you start the search all over again. The second, the third, which is important, is compensation. So if the compensation doesn't match the qualifications, which sometimes it doesn't, we have to educate our client that if the compensation is lower than the qualifications, you'll never fill that position because it's a perfect market right now. There is no you're not going to pay a candidate more than he's worth, and a candidate is not going to command more than they're worth. So it's a perfect market right now. Everybody knows what it takes to get a candidate compensation wise. The problem is, are they going to admit it? So companies can have a budget for the compensation, but for sure the market is going to tell us whether that compensation is adequate for the qualifications. So if you got time to hire, qualifications, compensation, they all meet in the center. And if they all meet together, it's the perfect storm. And then you will have a very successful search.
And how do you find them? I mean, you mentioned it's like once you get them in front of you, all those steps make total sense to me. But I mean, how do you find the people to begin with?
Because we are focused on placing sales professionals in our database, And we probably have somewhere north of 30,000 candidates that we have sourced for different positions that we have worked on. Now, we haven't talked to 30,000 candidates, but we've got 30,000 profiles in there. So we will start by looking in our database for candidates that meet the ideal candidate profile that our client is looking for. And then we will also do a LinkedIn search. We are big LinkedIn search recruiters. We have some really, really neat tools that we can mine LinkedIn for candidates that we feel are appropriate for the job. And then we will take the combination of all these candidates and put it in a talent pool for our client. And then we start the process of going forward and contacting these potential candidates in the talent pool.
Okay. And then you mentioned salaries and it being a perfect market right now. What are you seeing out there in terms of candidate salaries? What are people expecting? What are people having to pay?
Well, so I'm sure that the companies that are listening to this don't want to hear this. But the problem that we're seeing right now is in order to get an A player. So I get this a lot, Adam. I get a client that says, I only want an A player. Just give me an A player. I want them to hit the ground running. I want them to bring me business. I don't want to manage them very much. I want A players. I says, okay, are you an A company? And they said, well, what do you mean by that? I says, do you have the best compensation program in the industry? Wow. Do you have the best PTO? What is the culture? Are you going to nurture this candidate? How are you going to make this candidate successful? He's an A player right now. How are you going to make him more successful in your company? So you've got to ask those questions. So the company has to ask those questions if they want A players in their company.
Some honest questions.
Well, I mean, for example, we'll get a qualification that says, well, I don't want any salesperson that doesn't have a college degree.
Yeesh.
And I'll say, well, okay. So regardless of their success, regardless of their qualifications or the length of time that they have spent in your industry, selling to your competitors, you don't want to see that person. Well, no, I didn't mean that. I mean, we would prefer. So we go through that process of determining what that ideal candidate looks like.
Are you allowed to ask the salary question in the interview? Are you allowed to ask that salary question? Are you allowed? I mean, how's that work?
Well, first of all, for the sales managers out there or for the sales leaders, you are going to have to take a look at paying candidates a higher wage than you are potentially paying your incumbent sales people. That's happening a lot right now, and you've got to really deal with that. I got an email from a really great company that is in our business development drip campaign, and he said, and it was about compensation, and he called me and he says, "You absolutely hit the nail on the head. I'm having a difficult time hiring salespeople at the same compensation level that I have with my current salespeople." And I said, yeah, that's the market, right? I mean, it won't always be like that, but right now that's what you have to do to hire.
Wow.
Yeah. So what was your other question, Adam?
Just can you ask the question, or are you allowed to ask the question about salary in an interview?
It depends what state you're in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I believe there's 14 or 15 states right now where you can't directly ask what the candidate's current compensation is.
That makes it tough.
It's crazy. I mean, I for some reason, the legislatures in those states feel that is discriminatory. And my feeling is, I think it's necessary.
Right.
And I will tell you that the majority of candidates that I talk with, and I tell them, hey, look, I just want to make sure that I am not presenting something to you that does not meet your compensation requirements. Can you kind of give me an idea where you are? And they'll say, sure. Here's where I am. Here's where I am. Here's my base. Here's my compensation. Here's my car allowance. Here's what it is. So in order to make a move, I'm going to have to be probably around this area. And then they appreciate the fact that I even asked. I'm not wasting their time.
That's exactly what I was thinking, is that nobody wants to waste anybody's time.
And my clients don't want me to waste their time either.
Sure.
It's an appropriate question to ask. Unfortunately, in some states, you can't ask it.
Here's one. Speaking of interview questions, what would you say, in your opinion, are the three best or most important interview questions to ask in an interview?
Well, there's several, and I keep rummaging them around in my mind. So one of the questions is why do you want to work for my company?
Okay.
So there's, you're in an interview and you're looking for another job or something, but specifically, why do you want to work for my company? So that's going to give them an indication of whether they've done a good deal of research on your company. Do they know about your company? Do you know what to sell? Do you know what your reputation is in the community? What do you do with nonprofits? What do you do with all those types of things? So you have to nail that one. And then if you're looking for someone who is going to be a top salesperson, be a hunter, then you're going to ask the question is, how do you go about building your sales funnel? And so that is typically where all salespeople fail, is they don't build a very robust prospect funnel in order to sell. So if a salesperson has a lull in what they're selling, or they're down and out, they're not meeting their quota, you can trace it back 3 months to find out what their funnel is.
Okay.
And if their funnel was low, then that translates to bad sales 3 months from now. Then you got to start all over again. So you have to know from your salesperson how they go about building the funnel very specifically, because you can say that you've done some really great things in sales, but if you're not telling your employer, your prospective employer, exactly how you do that, then it'll really tell there. So those are the top two. There's a lot of others that I like, but I think of the top two, those are the ones that I really like.
Okay. Why do you want to work for my company? And how do you go about building your sales funnel? How do you do what you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Earlier, before we started the podcast, you were talking about something that I'd never even heard of, which was interviewing based on the time of day. So I've got to ask, you didn't tell me, what's the best time of day to conduct an interview, understanding that I didn't even know there was a best time of day?
Yeah, so for those of you who are readers of Dan Pink's books, and Dan Pink is actually a Columbus guy.
Yeah.
He went to Bexley, I think Bexley High School. Is that where he went to?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know if he's an OSU grad, but he's written a lot of books. And the last book before this was a book that's called When, WHEN. And it tells all about when you should be doing things, not what you should be doing or how you should be doing them, you do when. And they did a study of doctors, surgeons, and their success depending upon the time of day that they did surgery. And overwhelmingly, the more successful surgeons were those the surgeries that were performed like at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So if you are going in for a surgery, I would prefer that you don't do it at 3 in the afternoon.
Schedule it at 10, not when they're sleepy, right?
Same way with interviewing. I mean, you want to be on top of your game, and the person that's interviewing you wants to be on top of their game. Typically, energies are higher around 10 o'clock in the morning. Towards the end of the day, your energy level may be at a low point. Some people, get their second wind at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but definitely I would suggest a morning interview between 9:30 and 10 o'clock if all possible.
Wow, that's great advice. Never knew that.
No, there's a lot of other things with regard to Win. It's a great book. I suggest everybody pick it up.
Yeah.
From Dan Pink. And the last one that he had written is called Regrets.
Okay.
It's all about things that you thought that you should have done and you regret them, but they were actually things that you probably shouldn't have done anyhow. So it's really a great book.
That's great. Dan Pink's When and Regrets. I'm going to check those out. Of course, it'll be an audiobook for me. It won't be a.
Me
I don't know
too.
why. For some reason, I can focus so much better on listening to a book than reading it.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So there's a test out there called the Berkman.
Okay.
And there's another test that I took with regard to your, like what's your internal DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And so you and I, Adam, are one of only about the minority, about 17% of people in the world that are audible learners. Everybody else is either visual or kinesthetic, work with your hands or read, but we're audible learners. And I do the same thing. If I want to learn something, somebody has to tell it to me or I have to listen to it.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just know that when I open up a book and I start going through the pages, roughly 3 to 5 pages in, I'll go through 2 pages while thinking about something 3 pages prior, and I will have gone over all the words, but I wouldn't have read any of them. Does that make sense?
Your mind wanders.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally get that.
All right. Well, last question here, and this is probably one of my favorites. I had to ask you this last. So I've heard the term or the phrase, all candidates lie. Is that true in your experience?
It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek statement, Adam. The other tongue-in-cheek is all clients lie. So it's in the recruiter handbook that you are there to as a screen, and it's your job to make sure that when you're talking to a candidate, that what you are going to in turn tell your client is as close to the truth as possible. And there's a lot of things that candidates will do. They'll tell you, "Oh yeah, I'll move, for the right job," when in fact they won't. And then there are candidates that say, "Well, I really would like to make this money." And then you submit them to your client and says, "This is what they're looking for. Can you meet this compensation level?" The client says yes. And you go back to the candidate and you say, "Well, I was talking to my wife and we really need this." So it's a whole process of making sure that you totally understand your client and you totally understand your candidate. So you can't catch either one of them in a untruth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. There's a certain amount of trust that probably has to happen at the end of the day between these interviews. I mean, I don't know. I've always felt, and this has nothing to do with recruiting sales professionals necessarily, but just recruiting in general. I've in 21 years, just always felt like so much of it's just about the feel and the gut feeling you get about the person who's across from you, and how bad do they want it, and how hard are they going to work, and do they match your culture and things of that nature. So I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it all wrong, but that's always been my feeling when it comes to truth and lies. That is, I don't know.
I mean, you're in the financial services business, Adam. Do you look across the table at your client and say, "I don't think so"?
Right.
So, but it's all good. It's part of making sure that you get a good hire and the client gets a good hire.
All right. Well, Ken, thank you so much. That's Ken Lazar with Ability Professional Network. You can find him online at abilityprofessional.com. Their phone number is 614-403-6079. Ken, if somebody wanted to email you with an inquiry, if they want to talk to you about hiring for their company or a candidate looking for to hire you, what's the best email address or the best way to get a hold of you? Would it be phone, email?
It doesn't matter. My email is klazar@abilityprofessional.com. And if they want to go to the website, probably the best thing to do, go to the website, go to the contact page, and just write me a note or give me a call or send me an email or go on LinkedIn and contact me through LinkedIn. Recruiters never sleep. So, call me at any time, although we may not answer our phone immediately, but please don't hesitate to call. And even if you need some advice, if you're hiring somebody and you got some questions that you're not quite sure of, and I could offer advice, because really, not every company can hire a recruiter. They may not have the budget for it, or they have a strong internal human resources recruiting part of it. But we understand that, but we're here to help. So if we can help you hire, we'd be happy to do that.
That's awesome. So if you're a company looking to hire a sales professional, you got to know Ken. You can reach out to him at his website. There's an easy form message there you can use to shoot him a message. And if you're a candidate looking in the sales profession, you're looking to potentially change careers in the next, whether that be 1 month, 1 year, 3 years, it doesn't sound like it makes a difference. I think that's one of the things I learned today, is that you kind of always need to have a relationship with someone in case something comes up. And whether you're ready or not, you probably want to be open-minded to it. So that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for joining us. There are thousands of podcasts out there to listen to, and you chose to give hours to listen today. So thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe both on iTunes and YouTube. And remember, you can sign up at libertaswealth.com to get not only these updates, but as well as articles, other screencasts, and videos that we do. They'll all be delivered to your inbox. Feel free to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Libertas Wealth. I'm on Twitter at Adam Koos, and Financial Surgeon on Instagram. So thank you so much once again for joining us. Ken, thank you so much for being on, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Adam. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Cash Podcast with your financial surgeon, Adam Koos. To see any charts or images that were mentioned in this show, or to check out additional articles, videos, and other educational resources, head over to libertaswealth.com.